I'm like one of those Japanese bowls that were made long ago. I have some cracks in me. They have been filled with gold. That's what they used back then when they had a bowl to mend. It did not hide the cracks. It made them shine instead. So now every old scar shows from every time I broke, and anyone's eyes can see I'm not what I used to be. But in a collector's mind, all of these jagged lines make me more beautiful and worth much a higher price. I'm like one of those Japanese bowls. I was made long ago. I have some cracks you can see. See how they shine.
Wow. So Deborah and I were having a back and forth about the music for this talk, and she sent me that song, and I thought, and I emailed her, I was like, I'm not quite sure, and she sort of dropped it in for me. And I thought, oh, so my talk, I love it when that happens, where the music actually inspires the talk. So what she's speaking to is this Japanese art called kintsugi. And kintsugi, now that's my definition of it, the art of embracing wholeness within brokenness. And the bowls are beautiful. And they've all been filled with gold. And instead of detracting from their beauty, this idea of healing actually creates something more magnificent and more unique and more special. So this was me at one point in my life. Okay, this was me. I literally felt like that. Everything in my life, and I have shared that moment with many times from this platform, that moment where my entire world literally fell apart. Every piece of familiarity that I had in my life, from my relationships to my social life to my career to my everything just broke open at the same time. And when I found this teaching, so I had been a spiritual seeker my whole life. Clearly my spiritual practice wasn't up for what I was in the midst of, because I really felt completely broken. Completely broken. And I found new thought. I found this teaching. And like some of you may know, some of us, when we come here, we just cry. That's all we can do. We come here and we experience something and we're so in need of healing that we just cry and we feel touched, and it's incredibly powerful. And we're taking care of ourselves. We're sort of building up our own capacity to be present in the world. And while I was starting this journey, I was taking classes because I wanted more. I wanted more of this teaching that's anchored in love and grace and affirmations and hope and possibility. I wanted more of it. And my focus was all about me, my healing, how horrible I felt, how broken I felt, how my life was such a mess, honestly, and my focus was so self-absorbed, really self-absorbed. And in these classes, one of the pieces that we had to do for every class I took was we had to have a prayer partner. We had to pray with somebody. Now, the very first class I took here, I had no idea how to pray affirmatively. Honestly, I had no idea what the practice was. It was so new to me. So new and foreign and delicious and terrifying. And I had to contact somebody a minimum of 4 times a week and pray with them. Not just get prayer for me, but I had to pray with them. And I have to tell you that the most healing aspect of all that groundwork that I was laying for my own healing wasn't the work that I was doing where I was so focused on my own belly button. The healing work that happened was when I had to show up, cracks and all, brokenness and all, not even knowing what I was doing at all. I had to just keep showing up in service to somebody else's healing. And in that process, I was healed. So while I started that process looking and feeling and experiencing that as my life, I ended it like that. Isn't that a great sculpture? My cracks are there, but the light of who I am is shining forth from that place. And it wasn't my focus on myself that created that opportunity for healing. It was my willingness, even in the midst of my brokenness, to reach out and to connect with someone else, to lift my view out of my own small sphere of suffering and allow myself to recognize that there is something else happening that is so much bigger than I am. I want to share this story. Some of you may know it. I want to share this video, and there's a part where he's speaking in French. This is the Spider-Man of the 18th arrondissement. There's a part where he's speaking in French that I will read it because the way that bar is, it makes it a little challenging to read his subtitles, and I'll just speak them aloud as we're watching it.
As people gather yelling and honking their horns in the street below, a small child dangles from the 4th-story balcony. A young man appears in the corner of the frame, hauling himself up, floor by floor. The neighbour reaches for the child from the adjacent balcony, unable to pull him over. Swinging one leg over the railing, the man pulls the child to safety. The rescuer is Mamadou Gassama, a 22-year-old undocumented migrant from Mali who'd been watching the Champions League football final in a nearby cafe. Video of the rescue has gone viral. Gassama, who's been dubbed Le Spider-Man, met with President Emmanuel Macron in the Elysee Palace this morning.
Directement, je n'ai pas pensé rien de moi, rien. Je me suis couru de traverser la route pour aller le sauver. Dieu merci, je le sauvé.
Donc, sans réfléchir, comme ça, vous êtes...
Mais je n'ai rien réfléchi de moi, voilà. Je me suis monté directement et Dieu merci, Dieu m'a aidé aussi. Quand j'ai commencé de monter, ça me fait le courage de monter de plus encore.
President Macron said the 22-year-old would be rewarded for his exceptional act, offering him papers to legalise his stay in France, citizenship and even a job as a firefighter. Mamadou Gassama, the Spider-Man of the 18th arrondissement, soon to become a citizen of France. Meanwhile, the child's father has been questioned by police for leaving his child unattended.
So my talk title today is Small Actions, Big Impact. So my prayer process with having to pray with another person was a small action that had an incredibly huge impact. This man, if you see in the video, is huge, right? I mean, he's a big, powerful guy. And he just launched himself up those balconies. And if you watch in the very beginning of the video, you see other guys trying to climb up too. There was something that was his gift. It was his talent. It was his that he had. And I love when he says, I didn't have time to think. The more I climbed, the more I had the courage to climb higher. He didn't know he could do that. He had no idea when he set out and started it. He just did it. Cracks and all, illegal immigrant and all, placing himself in jeopardy. And his small action, big impact. He showed up in that selfless way. He showed up truly in service. He wasn't thinking about himself. He wasn't thinking about what is this going to get me? How is this all going to work for my greater growth? He just did it, not knowing that he could. And in that process, he saved a life, literally, and his life has been changed. Doorways have opened for him that prior to him making that choice were not possibilities. He created a doorway for something new to happen in his own life. And he did it through being of service. Truly being of service and stepping out past his own sense of what he thought he could do. The more I climbed, the more I had the courage to climb higher. So sacred service, this is our month of sacred service, by the way. June is our month where we celebrate sacred service. We're going to have a special ceremony the last Sunday in July with certificates and the whole thing. So don't miss that particular service, especially if you do serve here. Make sure you show up so that we can love you. But it's in our vision statement. We pray, celebrate, serve, and connect to inspire and transform ourselves and the world. And it is also a core value. We experience personal growth and self-realization as we intentionally give of our time, talent, and treasure in service to our community and to the world. There is something that happens in terms of our own healing when we show up without any agenda at all, except to truly be of service. Because it's really just about connection. Sacred service, we sang it in, oh God, I'm raising the veil, I want to know you, I want to see you, I want to feel you, I want to praise you. Now here in Unity, we don't normally refer to the God outside of us as a you, because we know that we are the thing itself. We are the thing itself. But guess what? In this human realm, you are my you. And you are my you. Each of us is the divine showing up for itself, because connection with others is connection with yourself. It's the same thing. And sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, we are able to show up in a way for other people that we could never show up for ourselves. We stretch ourselves. We move into a greater understanding of who we are. And I will be totally honest with you, it is not always comfortable. It is not always like, oh, I serve and it's fabulous and it's light and it's airy. Sometimes people are just annoying. Right? They're just annoying. And right there, in that annoyance, guess what? That is your opportunity to grow, to be larger, to show up as love. And what all too often happens is we want to keep ourselves safe. We want to keep ourselves from being hurt. We want to keep ourselves from the hard stories, from the pain, from the brokenness. But when we open ourselves to other people's brokenness, guess what? It means we're opening ourselves to our own brokenness. And we know in this teaching, are we actually broken? No. No, that's our opportunity to literally be larger. And the light of who we are, and the joy of who we are, and the gold that we are can shine forth and express in time and in space. So can you see beyond yourself to where there is no other? That literally, as you're showing up, it's actually you, and it's actually not you. Are you willing to step into that space of sacred service? You are the divine, showing up for itself as itself. That's what's happening. Only one thing is happening. One activity always is what is happening. And when we get to show up as love, because really when we're talking about sacred service, we're talking about a spiritual practice. We're talking about consciousness. It's not about the thing that you're doing. It is the consciousness behind the thing that you are doing. Can you feel that? So that is what actually makes the ordinary extraordinary. You know the difference. Your significant other or mother or father or grandparent or whoever, you're not feeling well, and they lovingly make you this beautiful soup, and they take it to you, and they actually serve it with love, and how that feels, and how that soup actually tastes. Versus your significant other or father or grandmother, tired and cranky, and they just throw it in a bowl and they give it to you. Here, eat it. Literally, the soup doesn't taste the same. It doesn't. Our experience is changed by the consciousness that is behind the action. So I want to talk about the consciousness of sacred service here at Unity San Francisco, because I realized Carol Kopko and I had a whole lovely conversation, because I thanked her for her being of service and hospitality. And she's like, oh, it's nothing. And I was like, oh, no, it's not nothing. It's not nothing. Hospitality is a cornerstone of how we become a welcoming, warm place, where hospitality is an anchor for how we as community get to gather and talk and eat and break bread. It's not nothing. It's not just coffee. Can you feel that? Yeah. It is something so much bigger than that. So we have our ushers and our greeters. Right? And those ushers and greeters, the consciousness that is behind what they are doing is that it's welcome, and it's about open-heartedness. It's about really meeting people authentically, honestly, as they walk through the door, really connecting. That's a spiritual practice, yes? Can you feel that? It's not just handing somebody a program, that's the doingness. It's the consciousness behind it that makes it so powerful and becomes our own spiritual practice. We have hospitality, which I mentioned, which is all about connection and community. That is what hospitality is. How are people going to connect? How are they going to have an opportunity? How do I prepare the table so that it's easy for people to mix and to mingle? Because we want our members, our community, to be able to interact in really meaningful and powerful ways. Our PowerPoint and our platform assistants, right? They're not over there just pushing a button. That's not all they're doing. They're not just coming up here and making announcements. What they are doing is supporting the order and the flow of this service. They are consciously connected in to how it all smoothly works, so that all of us get to have this beautiful journey and ride over the course of the service. We have our youth and family ministry. That is all about possibility and play and creativity. That is, those who are serving there are called to that, to be that consciousness. And then we have our prayer chaplains. That's about anchoring and knowing wholeness. That's what prayer chaplains do. We know and we anchor the wholeness that is present. That is our consciousness. That is what we bring to everything we do. And the board, which is one of the biggest acts of service you can do, this is all about being visionary, strategizing what is going to hold this community and move it forward. And we have so many other opportunities. Tyler, God bless him, was like, oh, you want to see my list? I got a list. These are the folks that make Sunday possible. Right? What you're seeing up there. That is what makes Sunday possible. And then we have all kinds of other things that your skills and your gifts and your talents can support here at Unity San Francisco. We do a gala fundraiser every year. Do you like to throw parties? Do you like to plan them? Are you into that? We have a place, a space for you to share those gifts and talents. Because, folks, this community isn't a community without everything that you are doing and being. That's the definition of community. You have to let your gold shine. I know it can be easy sometimes to just sit back and to not want to really interact with the world, to just stay in that safe little bubble and not have to get ruffled, not have yourself get jostled, not have the ideas that you think are so true bump up against somebody else's ideas about what they think is so true. All of it is an invitation, because the gold is love. That's what it is. So are you going to let your love shine? Are you going to let your light shine? Are you willing to lovingly be part of not only your growth and expansion, but the others' growth and expansion, because there really is only one thing happening. And as we say yes, individually, collectively, whew, this community is on a rocket ship to the moon. Can you feel the power that is present in that? But it asks something of us. It asks us to be willing to look beyond our comfort zone, to look beyond the thing that we think we can only handle. We practice self-care. I'm not talking about burning yourself out. I am talking about what Paul Hasselbeck would call the adjacent possible. What you think is possible, and then there's the adjacent possible. And that's where you get to grow and stretch and breathe yourself into. So the invitation today is, if you already serve, thank you. And if you aren't serving right now, where can you serve? How can you actually show up in time and in space and be a part of allowing this community to grow and to expand? Because as we do this, I'm telling you, sacred service is the deepest, most powerful spiritual practice there is. It is our fifth principle. It is our fifth principle. The fifth principle is that we actually live into the principles that we teach. We actually do it in time and in space. And what we teach here is that love is everything. And our invitation is to be the love, to see the love, to express the love. Always more. We are infinite beings. There is no limit to the amount of gold and light and love that is available for you to express. And whatever doubts you have about not having anything to offer, about not being good enough to offer it, about having some sense of, I don't know, it's going to make me uncomfortable because I don't really know what I'm doing. Break it open. Let yourself be healed. Let yourself be healed so that you get to be that. Fully open, fully alive, cracks and all. Let your gold shine. So let's take this into our time of meditation.